You get an understanding from the people who asked for it, from the audience. And not only does that kind of help you understand how the product might not do well and hopefully fix any issues ahead of time before launching it, but it also gives you an opportunity to uncover, "Ooh, this might be a way where we could even make it better so that it meets even more unmet needs."
Hey there, product marketers. Welcome to GTM Happy Hour, where I meet with experts from product to marketing, sales to success. Product marketing is evolving into go-to-market strategy leadership, and PMMs are having to find ways to connect with the cross-functional team members they need to lead go-to-market launches. I'm Jamie Walsh. I'm a product marketing and go-to-market advisor who's been in B2B SaaS for over 20 years. Over that time, I've had quite a few drinks with the experts that I admired, and it helped me grow to where I am today. I hope you enjoy the conversation. I'm joined by Emily Esparza today as she delves into the intricacies of strategic marketing and brand insights. Emily shares her journey from agency work to brand executive, emphasizing the importance of understanding product market fit and the necessity of engaging with clients to gather insights. She also talks about gamification in marketing strategies, the significance of learning from both successes and failures, as well as the value of conducting retrospectives to improve future marketing efforts. Let's grab a drink. Hey, how are you? It's good to see you
I'm
again.
good. Good to see you too. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. I love to get to catch up with people that I've worked with in the past. It's always a good time. Uh, Why don't you introduce yourself to everybody that's listening and talk about what it is that you do and what you've done to get here.
Yes, I am Emily Esparza. So I would kind of put myself in the category of a strategic integrated marketing sort of brand executive. I really specialize more in sort of the brand insights area, really sort of bringing brands into markets. So if you think about things like brand identity, brand positioning, brand value proposition, those sort of key brand foundational elements when you're bringing brands into a market. Of course, product as well, but really thinking holistically from a brand standpoint.
Yeah, and you came from an agency background, so
Yes.
maybe you could talk a little bit about that world because you and I worked together at Archer, which is not an agency, but you were brought there with somebody that you had worked with in the past at that agency. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes, the bulk of my experience is agency world. So that's where I got my start. I actually started in account service and started, working in that world, understanding clients' needs. And a lot of that was really going over to the research and the insights department and saying, "Hey, here's an issue that we have or an opportunity that we have. Can you give me some insight? Can you give me some understanding for our audience or some opportunities maybe that you've uncovered through your research? Or can you help me dig through the research to find some information that I'm looking for?" And through that process, I realized, ooh, I really like this and I'm kind of good at it. So I made that transition over from account management into more of the strategy and what they call in agency world brand planning. So that's
Cool.
Mhm.
So this is at happy hour. I encourage people to drink, but I don't force them to drink because it is near midnight here in Pittsburgh. I am going to have a White Claw, which is nice and refreshing. I have to pour with my right hand. Not that I get promo money for this, but I always like to make sure that to
we
show the
need
brand.
we need to work on sponsorships for you. So
Maybe.
I am getting ready to sit out at 4 straight hours of baseball in the 90-degree weather in Kansas City. So I am currently imbibing on water because I need to stay hydrated. Now, if I wasn't doing that, my favorite drink is cucumber soda water with grapefruit vodka. So that would be the beverage of choice that I would be imbibing.
That sounds very refreshing. Well, cheers to that. And
Cheers.
let's drown our sorrows a little bit. All right. So let's talk about what have you been through? And you don't have to name names. This isn't to shame anyone, but what experience have you had that was just a complete disaster for you in go to market?
And I don't have to name names because I think what it boils down to in some of the failures that I have unfortunately had to ride along with. It boils down to kind of like lack of product market fit when you just come to it. And it's not from the get go, right? I genuinely know that most businesses, most brands come from a very genuine spot of we're filling a need. We heard our clients, our customers, our audience say that they want this, that they need this, whether it be currently using our product and they have told us through feedback that this is a problem with our current product, or boy, we wish that your product or your service did this as well. The issue that I have found is that the brand that I'm working for or the company that I'm working for doesn't fully vet, validate, or test what they bring to market. And what I mean by that is we create what we think they need and want, but we don't actually talk to our audience or talk to our clients and do, let's say, things like user testing or vetting the product or the service more thoroughly. And ideally, you would do very thorough research with that. That's just not always something that you could do, right? That costs a lot of money, that takes a lot of time, and I fully understand that. But sometimes we even skip the step of doing directional research, right? We heard you say this. This is what we've put together. Here's the MVP. Here's the strategy that we're working on for the next 3 months, the next 6 months. What are your thoughts on that? Right? So that you get an understanding from the people who asked for it and from the audience. And not only does that kind of help you understand how the product might not do well and hopefully fix any issues ahead of time before launching it, but it also gives you an opportunity to uncover, "Ooh, this might be a way where we could even make it better so that it meets even more unmet need or excels even better." So I have found in my experience, any sort of product or brand launch is really just that we have failed to properly do that fit test during the process. And it usually comes down to we don't have the time or we don't have the budget. And one thing that I do pride myself in is saying, we can find a unique and creative way to execute the research, right? You have the resources at your fingertips with your existing client base, with your partners, with the resources that you have, right? If you think about it, if you have a membership with like Gartner, they have a lot of tools if you have a certain level of membership with them where you can send out sort of omnibus surveys and things like that. So it's one of those things where sometimes you have to think creative. You want to build it into the timeline when possible, but just skipping the step is not smart.
No. And, you and I have both been places where they've got a wide customer base, right? And sometimes, I think in most cases, companies mistake that for a strength when it's actually a source of weakness for them. And I'll give you a reason why is because it can stretch a product organization, the product development team, that is product management. It can stretch them really thin and going into different directions that are just not aligned with you know the direction of any one vertical or any like subset of verticals. You get to a place where they're selling into 10 different verticals, right? I don't know that they all do things in a very homogenous way, in a very similar way, where their needs are all the same. You have normally you have these two industries, they're going at a certain pace and they want innovation and blah blah blah. And these others are a little bit slower to adopt or they're doing something differently. And when you're attending to those needs, it can be very challenging to keep up with the fast ones, right? Who are expecting things quicker and not, and maybe outpacing the people that just don't need all this extra stuff. I just think that, like, there's a certain point in your growth pattern where you really need product marketing to sort of like say, listen, we're going to take a look at who our best customers are and where we can, not only we continue to keep them, but there's also opportunity beyond them in others lookalike customers like them. The opportunity is X. And if we focus on these three, cohorts of customers, we can really be efficient at serving their needs and not these other 4 or 5 verticals that we also have already happened to sell into that just are along for the ride and maybe not great customers. They're, they nickel and dime us on every sort of turn. They're not really engaged in usage of the product. And yeah, I think that that's an interesting thing to bring to people. Is like, listen, you could really do yourself a disservice by not thinking about, hey, am I doing too much? Right? Am
Mhm.
I trying to be in too many places where, yeah, we might grow at 10, 15%, 30% in some years that are good, but more often than not, we are going to miss those targets because we just can't be relevant enough for everyone. That's the other part too, is
Well,
like
and I
the
like that
message.
I like that you bring that up, right? Because something that's important to always think about, and again, in my introduction, I pointed out one of my biggest things is understanding what your brand marketing does versus what your product marketing does, right? And so I love that you noted, sort of wasted resources, for lack of a better term, saying, hey, those three verticals, yes, we absolutely can serve them. We do serve them. We have great clients that love our product, but they're just not our bread and butter, right? But our brand marketing serves them very well, right? And our brand marketing does it in these three ways, right? And so our resources for our product marketing is going to go towards our bread and butter because of A, B, and C. But that's why you have to think about, what is our brand marketing doing? What is the service of our brand marketing, right? Our brand marketing does everything, right? It covers off on that product marketing as well. But when
Mhm.
you're thinking about resources and budgets and things like that, brand marketing sometimes has to cover off on those sort of verticals that you're saying, absolutely, we can serve them, no doubt about it. But it's just something that we want to put our resources to.
Yeah, and you might also consider like sub brands or, additional, services that you can offer to differentiate. It's not always about your product. It's the offering itself is, over the product in terms of how you sell it, what else you sell in addition to the technology, if you're a technology company. But then looking at, there might be opportunities for us to, sort of separate 2 business units all under the same brand and have ways to serve them both by financially making sure that we are putting the right resources towards these and then right sizing the resources for these other products or segments of the market that we serve with our existing product.
And it can differ by region too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, regional needs also kind of change the way you look at things.
Right. What do you feel is your superpower in the go to market space?
Yeah. So this was a great I know that you kind of gave me a little bit of a preview on what you might be asking me, and I appreciate that because I like to do my homework. One thing that I do think that I pride myself on is every opportunity that I have to interact with clients, I take. And what I mean by clients, when I work in a marketing or a brand department, I serve everybody, right? So, Jamie, working with you at Archer, you are my client as well, right? I'm gathering insights. Product is my client, sales is my client. Our clients are my clients. Our partners are my clients. So, any opportunity that I have to have any sort of engagement, I'm not constantly interviewing them, but I'm constantly interviewing them. So, every interaction with them, I am armed in my back pocket. Of course, it starts very cordial and casual, but as soon as they give me an opening where they're talking about something, I'm digging, right? Oh, tell me more. Now, the key important facet of that is that if they tell me something that needs to have follow up and needs to show a response, it has to happen, and it has to happen in a very timely manner, right? So if during a discussion, let's say a partner brings up something and they say, oh, it'd be really great if we had, the information packet for conferences and the presentations earlier, because it's nice to know the speakers and da 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 da. I'm going, right back and sending emails to whoever is planning our conference, right? Making sure that our marketing materials, and even if it's like halfway done, right? Maybe we reach out to our partners and say, here's the incomplete schedule of speakers, but we want you to know in advance that this is who will be speaking. This is what they're going to be talking on that we know of right now, right? And then, reaching back out to Emily and saying, hey, Emily, I wanted to let you know I reached out to such and such. I let them know I think this is a fantastic idea. I'm so glad you brought it to our attention. That sort of thing. And so it's not just listening to them, but constantly engaging with them. Those little interactions, you'd be surprised at how quickly they're going to constantly kind of be in touch with you and be like, hey, I thought of this as well. Now, sometimes the thoughts are imperfect and something that you may not find a lot of value in. But the one idea out of 10 that is just absolute gold that you never thought of and no one within your organization ever thought of is worth every single opportunity that you've taken to engage. So that is definitely something, whether it be at a conference and we happen to be standing in a hallway drinking coffee, I take an opportunity to introduce myself to a client and just chat it up with them, or, whatever it may be, meeting an associate in a different department of the company that I'm working at my own office, right? Getting to understand them. Oh, well, what is it that you do? That's amazing. I didn't know that we did that. The amount of times that I in marketing have learned about something that my company offers that I didn't know about, I'm embarrassed, right? Because I'm in marketing. So for some reason, I get told a lot about the products and the services that we really want to sell and push, right? And then no one tells me about this really cool, oh, well, we can actually do a shortened integration. We've done it like 3 times and it's hugely successful. What? Like, no one told me that. Like, I didn't know we could do that. And it's like, why aren't we promoting that? Why isn't that something, you know what I mean? So things like that I would have never known about had I not just like stopped Jamie in the hallway and introduced myself.
Yeah.
So definitely a superpower, and it's such an easy superpower. Anybody can have that superpower. So that's a free superpower that I'm giving away to everybody.
Yeah, you mentioned something too, like they're not always going to be gold nuggets that you
No,
find, but it's like the Gretzky quote, right? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take.
exactly.
If you don't put yourself out there and make yourself available, you'll never learn these things.
Mhm.
The other thing is that, sometimes it's not possible to have conversations with everybody that you need to, right? Like every person in the sales organization. We had what, two sales reps in at Archer. I was like, guys, I'd love to talk to you. Don't get me wrong. I want to talk to you all. The insights that I know that I will get will never happen because I won't be able to have that. So this is why data in CRM is important. We need to find ways to capture that using tools. Now we're blessed with conversational intelligence tools that transcribe our calls when we have the privacy and everything and the consent that we need for it. But more often than not, you can bridge that privacy and consent gap by just saying, listen, I want to have conversations with you as a salesperson and I want to be able to help you and solve your problem. And I don't want to be worried about taking notes and jotting things down. This is why these tools exist. And now look at us. We can just be in the moment and talk and not have to stop and write things down.
Mhm. Well, and you'll randomly get invited, to go back to like tech companies, right? Your clients put together user groups, right? Where they talk with each other. And so if you just kind of start those relationships, sometimes they'll invite you. And it's amazing what you'll learn in those user groups, right? Where they're talking about different facets of use cases that they're using and products that they're using. And they'll invite you in, and you just kind of get to sit there and learn and listen. And in time, they trust you. And so you can start asking questions. And sometimes they'll let you send little surveys out. And it's really nice as
Yeah.
you start to build those relationships.
And they'll actually answer them.
Yes.
What talk about a time that you had something that was like wildly successful that you didn't anticipate. You're like, I'm just gonna give this a shot. And you're like, holy shit, this was better than expected.
Okay, so this Still blows my mind the level of success that it was. This goes back to when I was working at an agency that focused on pharma marketing, and we were launching a pharmaceutical drug. And during the digging in and understanding the audiences, it was a new drug for multiple sclerosis. So I'm going to give you a little detail because it helps. But it was a completely different way to treat multiple sclerosis. And so the actual way the treatment worked was more of an oncology approach. So we would actually have to be treating these physicians and these specialists a completely different way of thinking about how to approach treating MS. So we were learning all about these oncologists, and one of the random questions within one of the surveys that we did was like, what do you like to do in your free time? And we got a lot of like golf, and a lot of them really liked racing, you know what I mean? And things like that. But something that kept coming up over and over again was gaming. They loved gaming.
Like video
And
games?
video games, yeah. And so we did a little more digging, and a lot of the specialists and stuff kind of fell within the Gen X, you know what I mean? So we did some cross tabs and stuff, and we were like, okay, so we got a pretty big group of kind of like Atari aged gamers, right? And so we threw it out to our creative team, and we had a big conference that we were getting ready to put on. And our creative team said that they wanted to do tabletop games that were basically like Space Invaders, but what they were teaching them, uh-huh, exactly. And what they were going to be teaching them was that they can, attack the B cells by shooting off the protein that's called a BTK. And so you'd be shooting the BTK off of these B cells, right? And so it was super fun. It very much felt like Space Invaders. But the whole point was making them rethink of attacking a B cell from this like protein standpoint. The amount of backup that we had at our booth and the amount of people that were kind of like standing at our booth in the mornings to get to the tabletop games in the mornings. And overnight, we ended up having to recode it because people were wanting to know who had the highest score. And we didn't have like a ranking on it. We just
Oh,
had,
yeah.
so we had it recoded at night so that we could start tracking high scores. And it was the most insanely successful, and it makes complete sense. Gamification is huge, but just the fact that it was such a good way to kind of make them rethink how to think about MS treatment, but in such a fun way, and to get them to literally stand in line at our booth and want to interact with it. It was hugely successful. They would brag about their ranking on the leaderboard and things like that. So just thinking differently, um,
Yeah.
and having fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't envy people in field marketing that have to think up like, how can I make this booth attractive and get people to do something that's just a bit different? And oh, by the way, we've blown 80% of our budget just to be here and have a booth. And that isn't a little bit of money. And so I have what, 10, $20,000 in some cases for swag and for other things that can make things poppin'. Now you were just mentioning that I just did something a couple of weeks ago using Lovable, which was build like a retro game
Yeah.
using Lovable, and mine looked like crap. And I saw somebody on LinkedIn that had one that was like it looked really really good. It was really close to like the Atari game. So um,
Yeah.
that's
The nice
that
thing
is pretty
was
cool.
the follow-up with it was so that was again, it was great because we had great booth interaction, and that was phenomenal, and it was great, but the actual follow-up from it was huge because we said, "Hey, if you give us your email address, we'll send you your scores," right? And everything, and people signed up for it, and we said that we would send them the game too so that they could play it online. And I again, it was just amazing how many of them wanted to just play the Space Invaders game.
And to go off on a tangent and ask you something like, I'm actually surprised sometimes how often the field marketing concepts and themes sometimes are like throwaways. They're like one time only, like it
Mhm.
just exists for that. And it's not something that's carried on for like a theme for the next 6 months. It's like, no, no, we did that at the customer summit. And like, why wouldn't you ride that for and then the next 6 months, all your customers, if they had a great experience there, like they would love to continue that experience even virtually when they go back home. I don't
Yeah.
get why that's not done more often, but
Yeah, and luckily this one, the team worked really hard to fit it into the overall brand strategy. So just the overall brand strategy was unravel, basically because patients feel like they're unraveling when they have MS. And
right.
so while the game had this like Space Invaders vibe, think about the connection of like unraveling. So as you shot the BTK on the B cells, they like unraveled. So it worked really well. And then it was available on the unbranded website as well.
Let me just ask this. So, what's something that you feel like this is again the audience for this podcast is more about product marketers that are looking to level up. They're going to be asked to do things more holistically, like full stack marketers almost, and even such where they're leading a number of different teams like customer success and like the product team in a way that they haven't done before. But from your perspective, what's something that can help them be 1% better, tomorrow?
So, one thing that I would always recommend is do a retrospective or a postmortem on every single thing you do. Something that I do feel like is a fail when we do that is just talking to your sales team or your field team and asking them, how'd that do? What'd you think of that? And that's not what I mean. I mean, actually digging in and trying, even if it's directional, even if it's just 5 clients, 5 audience members, really digging in and understanding how that, you know, material played out, how that presentation played out, right? And it can be very simple. It can be, a quick chat. It can be a 3-question survey. Uh, Retrospectives are so valuable from a successful piece to an unsuccessful piece. You're going to learn so much more if you take the time to dig in and kind of dissect it.
That's good. I think one of the things that I try to do in the way that I go about product marketing and go to market launches or new products or whatever is starting with the analysis. And it's not just about customer analysis. And a lot of times it's an existing product and you've got history that you can look back on and see trends or see how things played out for yourself. But then it gives you directional information to say, okay, well, there's these 3 customers or these 3 partners that we should talk to about their experience there before we move forward with it, whatever this is, right? We're going to talk to new customers, but we want to talk to existing ones about this thing that we did before, or win loss as an example. That's definitely a good place to start, and not necessarily look at it as a finishing thing, but always at the start of whatever comes in. Because you get into this habit of like, it's always, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. Well, okay, well, then we'll front load the time with, we're going to use some of our resources to find out retrospectively
Yes.
what went well, what didn't, well, and learn from that before we just plow into something and we'll save that for the end.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to save that for the end. We're
Yeah.
going to start with that and then move forward.
And the next thing's going to be so much better. You're probably going to save time and money as well if you take the time to learn from the previous thing. So the investment up front on that sort of retrospective is going to pay off in dividends, I've always found.
Well, it's closing time, so that was a good way to end it up. Pause right now and then give ourselves a time. Is there anything that you want to talk about, something that you're excited that's coming up for you? If you don't, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure that I can piece things together the right way.
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
my big report that I'm working on with Archer is coming out in September, but I honestly don't want to promote it. So
No, it's okay. We'll take that out of here. Well, thank you for joining. Everything has been great. I hope that the audience understands a little bit better of like how they can improve themselves and take some lessons from what you've done. So thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you making the time for us today.
Yes, thank you. And I'll have to join you for a real drink sometime in the future.
We
So,
will do that for sure.
okay, it was good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.